When Yaman's closest friend finally spoke, it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was heavy. "I lost him when he met Demet." Those words didn't sound like jealousy or resentment. They sounded like grief. According to people who know their history, this wasn't just a friendship, it was a bond built over 28 years, through childhood, early struggles, and moments when fame was still a distant idea. That's why his silence lasted so long. And that's why, when he broke it, people listened. Insiders say the friendship had always been rooted in loyalty and balance. Before the spotlight, before expectations, before public pressure, Can and his best friend shared a version of life that felt untouched by ambition. They were inseparable. Decisions were discussed. Doubts were shared. Nothing felt off limits. But according to his friend, everything began to shift the moment Demet entered Can's life, not suddenly, but unmistakably. What hurt the most wasn't being pushed away. It was being slowly replaced. Calls became shorter. Meetings were postponed. Conversations lost their depth. At first, he blamed timing, work, and the natural changes that come with adulthood. But deep down, he sensed something more permanent was happening. It wasn't distance, he reportedly said. It was disappearance. Those close to the situation described the realization as painful but quiet. There was no confrontation. No argument. Just a growing awareness that Can was changing in ways he no longer recognized. According to him, Demet wasn't the enemy, she was the turning point. The moment Can's priorities shifted so completely that the friendship no longer fit into his world the same way. Fans were stunned by how calm the confession sounded. No anger. No blame. Just acceptance mixed with loss. It wasn't about choosing sides. It was about acknowledging a moment when two paths quietly separated. And for someone who had walked beside Can for nearly 3 decades, that separation felt like losing a part of himself. By the end of his statement, one thing was clear. This wasn't gossip. It was a farewell that had been delayed for years. And the most painful part wasn't that the friendship ended, but that it ended without a clear goodbye. As his words settled, it became clear that this wasn't a story about betrayal in the usual sense. There was no single argument, no explosive fallout, no dramatic confrontation. The friendship faded in fragments. Missed moments. Unreturned calls. Decisions made without the conversations that once defined them. Before Demet entered Can's life, the friend was part of every major step. Career doubts were shared late at night. Personal fears were spoken without filters. There was a sense of equality, two people growing side by side. After the relationship began, that rhythm changed. He wasn't pushed out directly. He was simply no longer invited in. What made it harder was that Can never officially acknowledged the distance. There were no explanations, only excuses. Busy, traveling, later. Words that sounded temporary but slowly became permanent. At first, he waited. Then he adapted. And eventually, he accepted that waiting was no longer mutual. The pain wasn't jealousy toward Demet, but confusion toward Can. He struggled to understand how a bond built over 28 years could be altered without discussion. What hurt wasn't that Can fell in love, it was that he stopped showing up in the one place where no explanation was ever needed. Fans related to the quiet loss he described. The kind that doesn't end with a fight, but with silence. Many shared similar experiences, friendships that didn't break, but slowly dissolved. By the end, Yaman's best friend didn't sound bitter. He sounded resigned, as if he had already grieved the friendship privately long before speaking publicly. As the conversation continued, he revealed the part that hurt the most, not the distance itself, but the lack of recognition. 28 years of memories, sacrifices, and silent support felt suddenly invisible. He never tried to compete with Demet's place in Can's life. He understood that romantic relationships change priorities. "I didn't need to be first," he reportedly said. "I just didn't want to be forgotten." He considered speaking up sooner, but chose not to. Confronting Ken felt pointless once the dynamic had shifted. He didn't want to force a conversation that should have come naturally. Time didn't soften things. It confirmed what his instincts had already told him. The friendship had changed permanently. There was no bitterness, only clarity. He wasn't asking Ken to return. He wasn't blaming Demet for existing. He was naming the moment he understood the chapter they shared had ended. The narrative shifted again. This wasn't about drama or sides. It was about how relationships evolve, and how sometimes the most painful endings are the ones where no one is officially at fault. As the interview reached deeper layers, he addressed the question everyone was silently asking: did Ken ever realize what was happening? There were moments when Ken sensed the distance but chose not to confront it. Not out of cruelty, but out of momentum. Life was moving fast. Fame was louder. New priorities demanded constant attention. In that speed, old bonds became easy to overlook. He never wanted to become another obligation. He believed real friendship doesn't demand explanations or reminders. It simply exists. But existence alone wasn't enough anymore. The realization was gradual. No final moment. No last conversation. Just a slow awareness that the person he once spoke to daily now felt unreachable. That's when he stopped trying to fix it, not because he didn't care, but because he accepted that the version of Ken he knew belonged to another time. He acknowledged that love changes people, and that Demet's presence coincided with a transformation that was likely inevitable. Still, coincidence didn't lessen the loss. He didn't regret the 28 years they shared. He regretted that those years ended without acknowledgement. Without a conversation that said, "We're different now, but what we had mattered." As the story continued, he addressed the moment he stopped trying. There came a day when he realized effort was no longer shared. He wasn't angry. He was tired. Tired of initiating conversations that went unanswered. Tired of waiting for a version of Ken that no longer existed. "I didn't lose him in a fight," he said. "I lost him in silence." Demet's arrival marked a shift that couldn't be reversed, not because she did something wrong, but because Ken became someone else. Growth came, and loss followed quietly behind it. Pride kept him from pushing harder for answers. He didn't want to beg for space in a life where he once belonged naturally. When friendship requires reminders, something essential has already been lost. Fans recognized the moment when holding on causes more pain than letting go. The story stopped being about blame and became about grief, the grief of outgrowing someone you never wanted to lose. By the time Yaman's best friend finished speaking, it no longer felt like a revelation. It felt like a goodbye that had been waiting years to be named. There was no anger left, no desire to accuse or expose. Only calm acceptance. He wasn't trying to rewrite history. He was honoring what once existed without pretending it still did. Losing Ken wasn't about Demet alone. She was the moment things changed, not the cause of everything that followed. Growth doesn't always move people forward together. Sometimes it moves them apart. Saying "I lost him when he met Demet" wasn't meant to place blame, it was meant to mark a moment in time, when friendship turned into distance and distance quietly became permanent. What resonated most was the honesty. No villain. No dramatic ending. Just a truth many recognize but rarely say out loud. Sometimes you don't lose someone because they hurt you. You lose them because they move into a life where you no longer fit. And that kind of loss doesn't come with closure. It comes with acceptance. In the end, Yaman's best friend didn't ask for reconciliation. He didn't demand acknowledgement. He honored the 28 years they shared by speaking about them honestly. And gave the story its final shape, not as a scandal or a fight, but as a quiet reminder that even lifelong friendships can end, not with betrayal, but with change.